Good morning, everybody. This is Diane with Plant-Based Dallas, and I've had several people that have asked me to give them a video of what's in my pantry. Okay, I think the most important thing is that I show you my beans and grains. I've got so much in here that I need to reorganize, but let me show you what the different kinds of beans and grains I have. Let's start with just the normal ones. I've got your green peas. I've got a container where I've mixed up the 12 bean type soup. I've got your kidney beans, fava beans, pinto beans, brown lentils. I've got black beans, and I've got your garbanzo beans. And up here, I have some split mung beans, and I'll explain those later. Got baby limas. Did you know that they make black chickpeas? I found these at an Indian market. Taste a little bit different, delicious. So try these because I'm sure the nutrients are a little bit different than our regular chickpeas. We've got northern beans, Peruno beans. I found these at a Mexican Hispanic market, and these you can make just as you would with pinto beans or substitute those. Great recipes, another good and interesting bean to try. And you know you can buy dried soybeans. Make sure when you get your soybeans that they are non-GMO. Remember, whenever you buy any corn or soybean products, tofu, canned corn, frozen corn, always make sure that they're non-GMO because those are the two crops that are heavy GMOs. And of course we've got our black-eyed peas. Okay, this one is, these are little black lentils. They're also called urad in the Indian markets, but these are black lentils. Delicious cooked, delicious cooked. Okay, up here I have my Indian lentils, and I like to make Indian dal. Wonderful recipes and spices for the Indian dish dal. I've got chana dal. I've got urad, which is just the black lentils that have been washed and split. I've got the adzuki beans, which those are the little red ones that are also called red cowpeas. Interesting bean, a little bit like, sort of like black-eyed peas, but not quite. I've got your red lentils, and I've got the green mung beans. Okay, great recipe for mung bean sloppy Jills in the cookbook Vegan Under Pressure by Jill Nusinow. Really delicious mung beans. They're crunchy and they provide a really good texture for sloppy joes or sloppy Jills. And here's the mixed lentils and peas that I use for my mixed dal. I mix about 6 of these different ones together and keep that together so when I make the dal I use all of them. Okay, and then there's pigeon peas, which go inside my dal. I've never cooked them separately by themselves, but I put them in the mixture. And of course, yellow peas. Okay, coming over here to my grains. I've got the hard wheat berries. Again, with wheat, you want to make sure that you go with organic. I've got the soft wheat, which is also used for the pastry flour. I've got farro, spelt, oat groats, kamut back there, and oat flakes. I've got your hulled barley. You want to make sure that you get hulled barley and not pearled barley because pearled barley is slightly processed. Sorghum, which is also called Milo, and they look like little round balls. I love this new grain. When you cook it up, it reminds me of couscous, little round balls. Wonderful. Teff is a really small grain. Some delicious recipes for peanut butter cookies using teff grain. I've got my white basmati rice I use on occasion. And I mix in 7 different rolled grains to use for some of my morning cereal. And here is the freekeh, which is just cracked wheat. It's a green wheat, and it's cracked so that it cooks faster. All right, down on the next shelf, I do have couscous, but I don't really use it all that often since it's processed. I've got amaranth, which when you cook amaranth just by itself, it's sort of like cream of wheat. It has a lot of gooey texture to it, so it's a great thing to add to meatloaf if you want it to stick together better. I would throw in, if I've got some meatloaf that I'm making and it's a little bit wet, I'll throw in some dried amaranth. Millet is another great grain to try. Whenever I cook any of my grains, brown rice, millet, and some of the bigger ones, I always like to rinse it after it's cooked in a really fine colander because then it doesn't stick together. I sort of like to rinse off all that extra starch. Then I've got my quinoa, buckwheat, some great recipes for buckwheat chili. Buckwheat has a completely different kind of taste. I don't think it's a grain, but definitely worth trying. And then there's kaniwa, which is another small grain, and I throw this in my morning porridge as well. I've got wild rice and black rice, which is fun, and of course the steel cut oats. All right, now I'm going to take you into my freezer because I want to show you some important things in the freezer. Whenever I make beans or grains, I always make extras and freeze them. And it's great to freeze them inside these jars because then I can just take the jars directly out of my freezer and put them into my refrigerator where I have my box of cut veggies, beans and grains to prepare meals. So I've got some barley and some buckwheat. Also, I store in the freezer my cooked kale. I will blanch a bunch of kale, chop it up really fine, and then throw it in the freezer and take that out every week when I need it. Made some popsicles for my grandchild recently. I had some fruit and cooked up all the fruit, pureed it, and made popsicles for him. So looking forward to summer weather with popsicles. Also remember to freeze your brown rices. I read that those can go rancid on us, so you want to freeze your brown rices, and you also want to freeze all your nuts, your raw nuts. You want to freeze those. You want to freeze all your nuts and seeds because they can go rancid. Another thing that I keep frozen in here, whenever I open up a can of chickpeas, I always save the liquid into ice cube trays. So I use those in soups. I use those all sorts of things. So save your chickpea liquid. You can use that anytime. And I also keep my tortillas in here. I did want to show you, this is a brand that I find at Natural Grocers that is all organic and doesn't have any oil in it. That's Mi Rancho tortillas. Another good bread product that I have is the pita bread by the Baklava Bakery. Ingredients, hardly any ingredients, no oil. And what else is in here? I've got some cookies that I froze, and I've got some apple juice. I pressure cooked some apples and was making apple sauce, and I had a little bit too much juice, so I froze the extra juice into ice cube trays, and I'll use that in smoothies or in cake mixes if I need some additional liquid. Okay, right over here in the freezer section, I've got my cacao beans, which is for cookies. Any additional flour that I might grind up, I'll store in the freezer till I need to use it. Polenta. I've got my sliced almonds and my slivered almonds. I've got cornmeal, hemp seed, chia seeds, pepitas, amaranth, flaxseed. And whenever I make any kind of meatloaf or burgers, I just get these out and throw in any kind of seeds into all my burger recipes or meatloaf or meatballs, because you get that additional good nutrients with those seeds. All right, let's see. Let me show you what's going on over here. I just roasted some veggies. I'm going to make a tomato basil soup, but it's also going to have roasted veggies in it. I did not have any tomatoes, so we're going to use canned tomatoes for that. But roast your veggies, no oil, and then I'm going to plop them in the blender and add tomatoes, and I'm going to add some chickpea liquid as well. Alrighty, I hope y'all enjoyed the tour of my pantry and freezer. Eating this way is really simple. Oh, one last thing, I forgot. I need to show you my refrigerator. This is the best part of all, the jars, the jars, the jars. Okay, so here I have my box of jars, and when I want to prepare a meal, I just slide out my jars, bring them to the counter, and start dumping into my bowls. Got the date and the content, so I can just look on top and figure out what I want to put in my bowl. I just pulled these lentils out of the freezer, so we'll have those, and just cooked up and blanched some cauliflower, yellow or orange cauliflower, and pulled out some kale out of the freezer so that I have kale for this week. Also, keep lots of fruits chopped up for easy access. When you get hungry, you can just come in and pull out a vat of watermelon or cantaloupe and dig in. Keep your box of greens, because we add that to everything. Okay, that pretty much sums it up. I hope y'all have a great day.